Hi, this is Anthony. Welcome back to my show. This is episode 304 of the show, but it's the third one in a series of what I term heraldic mysteries. In some cases, these are very mysterious examples of arms that stand out, and other times they're just slightly intriguing oddities that might have an interesting backstory. But this one is really part two of a previous one based on a little more information that I've come to find. As I start, I cover a lot of things in my channel besides heraldry. If there's anything of interest to you in this channel, I would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. It just takes a second and it doesn't cost you anything. Thanks so much. Let's jump right into today's topic. I was perusing Volume F of Grants and Confirmations of Arms from the Ulster Office, which was of course the heraldic agency in Ireland when it was part of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. This particular volume covers the years 1853 to 1862. In my last video, I discussed the arms confirmed to an individual who was also granted a royal license to take an additional surname and arms. So his surname became Samuel Duval. Of course, after you watch this video, and I hope to keep it very short, I encourage you to go back and watch that preceding video. But a little background is needed here, otherwise nothing will make sense. The individual at hand was a man named Dennis Samuel. These are the arms, and according to his information on the second page of the confirmation, the Samuel arms, which are the paternal arms in this case, are in the second and third quarters. Those are the quarters where the maternal arms are often placed, but not always. Sometimes you have cases, such as this one, where somebody receives a royal license for a name change or an addition to their surname, and they also take those arms which they may or may not be biologically descended from, but which are often placed in the first and fourth quarters. Sometimes you might have the case where an individual's wife's uncle is the last person of the family name within that particular family and leaves his financial estate to his niece and or her husband, and as a condition of the will, it's required that they take his name, surname, and arms. Anyway, in this case, the arms in the first and fourth quarters are ascribed to an individual named Saul Vall. In this case, what would seem to be the surname Vall is spelt with a V, but doing more research, it generally is spelt with a W, which of course in German is pronounced as a V sound. It's not clear from the documentation in the Irish confirmation if Saul Vall was a paternal or maternal ancestor of this individual, Dennis Samuel. So, who was Saul Vall? After doing more research and figuring out that it's best to use the W when researching information about him, I found that he was a well-respected Italian Jew who found himself in what became the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, and according to folklore or mythology, he became king of Poland for a day, as the nobles could not decide upon which noble family to elect a new king from, and at that time Polish kings were elected. Again, I go into more detail in the previous video. Do I believe that he really had been king for a day or a few days? No, I doubt it. Was he an actual historical person who was well respected by Jews and non-Jews in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth? Probably. Was he a direct ancestor of this individual, Dennis Samuel? I believe that's likely. And to back up, so the origin of this individual was, according to the confirmation, his father Moses Samuel, who came from Poland as a merchant to the Empire of Brazil, and then the grantee at hand, Dennis Samuel, also a merchant, immigrated to the British Isles from Brazil. This grant was when he was a resident of Ireland. At some point, he was also a resident of London. He was knighted by the Emperor of Brazil, and a representation of that knighthood, the Order of the Rose, appears in the canton in the first and fourth quarters. I find this a little strange that it's not placed in the second and third quarters, since those presumably are the arms that he would have been using prior to coming to Ireland and being granted the royal license for the additional surname and additional arms. But sometimes heraldry doesn't make much sense. And here we see the arms of what is described as Saul Vall, a lion between three golden coronets on a blue shield, which I point out looks very similar to the arms that were confirmed to a man named Thomas Greer. I argue that despite the similarity in design, there's probably no connection between the two. However, doing further research, I found a copy of a book online by a member of the Samuel family who does not use the Samuel Duval surname, simply the surname Samuel, who is also a claimant to be descended from this mythical Jewish king of Poland named Saul Vall. In that book, there are arms attributed to the shadowy monarch, which I have copied right here, rather than a lion in the center with 3 coronets surrounding it, you have a similar lion that is holding a representation of the 10 Commandments. And both the arms are the same color scheme, a blue background with yellow or gold charges. And here I'm using common English words rather than heraldic terminology. So that basically is a thumbnail sketch of my previous video, but please do watch that after this one. But what has come up with since then? Well, I was reminded that I had seen a YouTube video produced by the historian Dr. Mark Felton of Mark Felton Productions. This is an individual who makes videos on a wide variety of military topics, but generally concerning World War II and generally concerning Germany, but also on other topics. If you have any interest in history, be sure to check out his channel and subscribe to it. But what do we see from this channel? These arms. Now, I'm going to back up. There are 2 places in Europe, which in English are called Galicia. In the west, there is a little bit of Spain north of Portugal called Galicia, and which speaks a language that's really a Portuguese dialect called Galician. The other Galicia is an area that straddled what is today a small part of Poland and a small part of Ukraine, which of course over the centuries the borders of the various iterations of Poland, the Russian Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and their successor states have shifted around. At one point this area was called the Kingdom of Galicia and Lodomeria, and here we see the arms of that kingdom, which was a kingdom within the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which were used from perhaps the later part of the 19th century to 1918. Note the 3 crowns. At a previous point in history, this area was called the Principality of Halych, Halych being a variant of Galicia. Think of Halych and Galich. And later, its status was elevated from principality to the Kingdom of Galicia, Volhynia. And then sometimes it's called the Kingdom of Ruthenia. Here we have the arms of the Ukrainian People's Army, which was later named the Ukrainian Galician Army, used in 1918 to 1919, which was, of course, in the aftermath of the breakup of the Russian Empire towards the end of the First World War, and as Ukrainians were trying to create a viable sovereign state. Now, let's jump to World War II. And as you can imagine, throughout history, this has been a very contentious area, no less so than in the 1940s. Some residents of this area, which up to that point had recently been part of the Soviet Union, sided with the Germans against the Soviets. In their minds, it was safer to ally with the murderous Nazis against the even more murderous Soviets. And in fact, in the famines engineered by Stalin in the 1930s in Ukraine, it's estimated that between 5.7 and 8.7 million people perished. Returning to the Axis in Ukraine, in particular, there was a unit of the Waffen-SS called the 14th Waffen Grenadier Division of the SS. And here is the unit insignia, which has the historic golden lion on a blue background surrounded by 3 crowns or coronets, which is believed by some historians to have been taken from the Austrian arms for that historic region. And by the way, because this unit was fighting against Soviet domination, or in the eyes of many people, Russian domination, albeit having to side with the Nazis to oppose the Red Army, some Ukrainian nationalists today honor the soldiers of this unit. This is one of the main components of Putin's accusations of Ukrainians being neo-fascists or crypto-Nazis. It ties back to this particular unit. So, how does this tie back to the Irish conformation of arms? Well, as you can see, the arms used by this Nazi-allied unit are extremely similar in design and color scheme to the arms attributed to a man, Solval, who lived in this general region and who mythic history states was king of Poland for a day, and then was confirmed by the Irish Herald to be lawful arms borne by a descendant domiciled in Ireland. Now, I think that it's very likely that the symbolism for the 2 arms was derived independently from common heraldic antecedents, but it is perhaps ironic that a mythic Jewish king and a real-life SS-affiliated military unit would have nearly identical arms. Okay, that's all for today. I would love to hear from you on your thoughts, but let's keep this conversation strictly on heraldry and not interpretations of the controversial history of this region in the past on up to the future. Again, I would appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and click the like button if you like this and my other videos, and look for more in the near future. This is Anthony. Thanks again. Hope to see you soon.